Broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Good morning, everybody. First of all, we here at Lakes Environmental would love to thank you all for participating in this webinar. We're really excited to talk about our AERMOD MPI, our parallelized AERMOD executable, and give you some tips and provide some additional information into what AERMOD MPI really is and how you can get the most out of your license of AERMOD View using AERMOD MPI. So let's jump right into this. First of all, let me introduce myself. My name is Michael Hammer. I'm a certified consulting meteorologist, and I have been with Lakes now for almost 7 years and been involved in air quality modeling for going on 15 or so. I'm really happy to be a part of Lakes here. You can get my contact information there. My email is michael.hammer@weblakes.com. If you ever have any personal questions for me, we'll also provide you with some additional contact information at the end of this webinar. My role with Lakes is overseeing a lot of our product development for our commercial software products like AERMOD View, CalPUF View, IRAP-H View, and others. I also assist in my role as a meteorologist with our metadata services. Some of you may have been a part of our metadata call webinar that we did at the end of last year, where we talked about our metadata services. So I have my hands on a lot of different things, as well as technical support. I'm heavily involved in that. Some of you may have emailed me in the past, and I'm really happy to be here with Lakes. Now, Lakes Environmental Software, of course, most of you know, we're based in Waterloo, Ontario, and we have a satellite office in Dallas, Texas. I'm located in Dallas, actually. We're recognized internationally for our advanced air dispersion modeling software and our IT solutions. And one of the things that makes us unique is that we only consult on IT projects. We don't want to have any sort of conflict of interest. We don't want to go out there and bid on projects that our own customers are going to be working on themselves, because we are here to fully support you in whatever it is that you are doing. We were also recently named one of the 50 most admired companies by the Silicon Review. We're really proud of the atmosphere and culture that we have here at Lakes Environmental and all that we are involved in. Some of the things that you may know us for, of course, our software, which is why most of you are here today, AERMOD View, along with CalPUF View, IRAP-H View, CalRoads View, the list goes on and on. We also provide a full suite of IT solutions, forecasting models, complete air quality modeling systems like FETSWeb and the Aquamis Cloud, which can be used at a single facility or multiple facilities to monitor currents, emissions, and concentrations, as well as forecast solutions and nowcasting. So there's a lot of complete IT solutions that you can get from Lakes Environmental. We're always happy to talk to you about that if you're interested. And then our training solutions, AERMOD and CalPUF training all over the world, all throughout the year, for both custom courses as well as for just classes that we put on in different locations throughout the year to cover a wide variety of topics. So good, all the intros out of the way. Let's get into the good stuff now. So AERMOD Processing, right now, the AERMOD executable that you can download from the US EPA is a serial execution executable. That means that it performs one calculation at a time, and it only works on one processor. So even if you have 16 processors or 32 processors, or you have some sort of supercomputer that just has hundreds of processors, it doesn't matter. If you're using the base aermod.exe file, it will only use one processor. And as air dispersion modeling has kind of grown up in the last few decades, projects have become very, very complicated. We've come to rely on the fact that computers have become incredibly powerful. I mean, most of us have a smartphone these days that's basically a personal computer that we carry around with us, and the calculations can be done very quickly. But for large modeling projects where you have thousands of receptors and hundreds of sources, and you're running 5 years of meteorology, over 40,000 hours of metadata to process, these projects have really slowed down, and we're putting a lot of energy and taxing this single processor. Now, for most personal computers, the way that this has been worked with is parallel processing. Most of today's computers, a base computer that you buy just off the shelf is probably going to have maybe a hyper-threaded single processor or two or three or four processors just off the shelf. It's going to have that. And this helps perform calculations and allocate resources simultaneously. You can see the image here, which came courtesy of Intel. You have, with a hyper-threaded quad-core processor, as is shown in this image, you have 4 processing cores, all performing operations at the same time. When you hyper-thread that, it creates virtual processors for additional performance. So each of these cores is hyper-threaded to allow for 2 virtual cores. So I don't have just 4 physical cores here, I have 8 virtual processors working all at the same time in this setup here, this example. That means that if I'm running AERMOD, and I'm just running AERMOD.exe, and I'm only using one of those threads, I have 7 unused threads that I really wish could be doing my calculations for me and speeding up my run by a factor of 8. So in order to address that, Lakes Environmental developed on our own a parallel version of the AERMOD model. Some of the benefits that you get with this: quicker run times will make it possible to offer competitive pricing and cost-effective services, because you're not going to be waiting a month for a run to finish. You're going to finish it much, much faster than that. And so that allows you to run more scenarios, do what-if analyses, perform sensitivity analyses, and optimize your modeling solution to get more done more quickly. You can also avoid cutting corners, such as reducing the number of years, having to shrink your modeling domain, lowering your grid resolution. All of these things are going to be taken care of by the fact that you now have this processor that is fully taken advantage of. You can use it up to 100% capacity. So AERMOD MPI is what Lakes Environmental has named the parallel version of the AERMOD model that we developed. We first released this in 2008, so we're going on 10 years now of a parallel AERMOD solution. And when you buy a copy of AERMOD View, this is included at no additional charge and allows you to use up to 8 processors on your computer. We'll note that some of our competitors will charge for more than use of 2 cores. So you're getting additional 4 times the processing power when you use Lakes Environmental's AERMOD View. One question that gets raised is, well, what are the results like? Well, they're identical to the US EPA model, and we put a lot of time and effort and energy into making sure that everything is validated 100% or as close to that as possible. Occasionally there will be bugs within the EPA code, and we will either try to work around those or we'll leave them there to maintain the pure validation. But all of our testing includes the US EPA test cases, plus we individually create dozens more to make sure that we're running the gamut of all the possible AERMOD scenarios so that you're getting that 100% equivalency. For each version of the AERMOD model that is released by the EPA, we have to go back and redevelop the parallel version of the model, and we always create a model validation report to go along with that. If anybody needs to see that for any reason, you can always ask us for a copy of that if you need to share that with a regulatory agency, for example. One thing I will bring up here with regulatory agencies, from the US EPA, their preferred version of the model is the version that they publish. Because we code our own version of the model, it is a little bit different. So in order to check whether you can submit runs that have been used with parallel, it's always a good idea to work in concert with the reviewing authority. Ask them what they need from you. Most of these regulatory agencies are going to be well aware of our product offering. They use it themselves. So you can talk to them and determine what is needed to demonstrate that equivalency that they may need to see. They may just want to see that model validation report. They may want to see an equivalency done in practice on a specific project. So just talk with them and let them know. And if they have any questions, of course, they will come to us as well. So now we're going to do a little bit of a demo. How do you run AERMOD MPI and AERMOD View? It may be something that you're already familiar with, but let's go ahead and take a quick look at an example project so that we can better understand for those of you that haven't done it for yourselves. So here I am in the AERMOD View application. This is the current version 9.5, and I'm going to open just a sample project here. This is the tutorial project that comes with AERMOD View. So normally you'd start up your project, you'd come in here and add your sources, set your model options, add your receptors, your meteorological data, you'd set your output options and do all that. At the time that you're ready to run, if I come here and say run AERMOD, it's going to pull up the project status window. Now I can see right now from this top bar that I already have the AERMOD _MPI _lakes.exe executable selected. Normally, you're going to start out with just AERMOD.exe. And down there at the bottom, there's a preferences button. I'll go back to that one more time. You can see down here at the bottom, in between help and details, I have preferences. And when I select preferences, this is where I choose the model. And from the drop-down list, you can see there are a lot of different versions of the AERMOD model. The release date is provided such that you know what are newer releases versus what are older releases. Of course, the name of the model itself also gives that away. The current version of the AERMOD model, as published by the US EPA, is 16.216R. Here that it's also duplicated as AERMOD.exe. So anything that is just AERMOD.exe or AERMOD_number.exe is a non-parallel serial version of the model as published by the US EPA. The ones that are named AERMOD _MPI _lakes and then _number optionally are the parallel versions of the model. And these will show up automatically once you've run the full installation of AERMOD View plus the additional MPitch utility that is available from our software updates webpage. So here I'm selecting AERMOD MPI lakes.exe, and then you come here and select how many processors you want to use. My computer that I'm using today has a dual core hyper-threaded processor. So that means there are 4 processors that the computer can utilize to perform this run. You may have a quad-core computer that's hyper-threaded, and you will have 8 processors. As I mentioned before, AERMOD MPI does have a cap of 8 processors, so you can select as many as you need up to that limit. And there may be times where if your project is very, very complex, you may even need to back down to like 6 or 7 processors to avoid having to put too much taxing processing power into the computer. But that's a pretty rare situation. So I select that I have 4 MPI processes that I want to execute. I tell my model to run. Creates my input file, and then from the run status window, it's now initializing each of my 4 processors. And once the run is initialized, you'll start to see those days fly by as it takes account all 4 of the processors that I have available to me. There it goes, all 4 processors, and there it goes. So if I were just running the regular AERMOD.exe, I would only be on day 10. Now I'd only be on about day 15 versus where I am now. Roughly a factor of 4 decrease in runtime because I have 4 processors instead of 1. So it's that simple. If you have a multiprocessor computer, all you have to do is select multiple processors to get it to run. Now, at the same time, we also have another option that can be used to increase your model runtimes. That is the secondary MPI license. Excuse me. So this comes with all copies of AERMOD View, and not everyone may be familiar with this. What the secondary MPI license allows you to do is conduct simultaneous runs across two different computers. It utilizes an interface that comes with AERMOD View already called Batcher. Now, Batcher, as I said, allows you to perform a sequence of model runs all in a row. So you can set up 5 or 10 or 15 or 100 AERMOD input files all to run in sequence. And if you have AERMOD View, what you can do is install AERMOD View on two completely different computers. And on your first computer, you activate the full AERMOD View application and you click run just as we just did, and you're running AERMOD MPI. But on your second computer, you can activate, you can activate the AERMOD MPI license through the Batcher interface, because Batcher on its own does not require a license. You can keep installing AERMOD View on other computers and keep opening Batcher on them. And if you're not running the MPI executable, you can just run the serial AERMOD. That's fine. But if you activate that secondary AERMOD MPI on the second computer, I can now run AERMOD MPI on computer 1 and AERMOD MPI on computer 2 at the same time. So not only are you getting the boost of additional processing power, you now are able to take advantage of the run reduction by just doing two simultaneous runs. So that's what we're going to show next, how to run the Batcher interface with AERMOD MPI. So I'm going to open Batcher. Here's Batcher. So I've got my splash screen. Open it up, and this is the Batcher interface. When you first open it up, it defaults to aermod.exe for the executable from this drop-down list here. You can use the browse button just to the right of it to search your computer for different executables. Here I've already preloaded most of the AERMOD executables that there are to choose from. If you don't see one here, you can simply click Add Executable and add that one to the list. But I have my regular AERMOD executables, my serial ones, and then I have my MPI parallelized ones. So first you want to create your run sequence list. There's an Add Input Files button up here in the upper right, and I will add my list of input files here. So I'm going to start with a tutorial run. Then I'm going to move to another example run. And then finally, I'm going to open a third run. So I have a sequence here of 3 separate runs. In the status column will tell me if there's any errors or potential errors or warnings to be addressed before the run. So since there isn't anything there, I know that these runs are ready to go. I only have the serial aermod.exe executable here listed. So if I'm on a separate computer from where AERMOD View is installed, I come to the File menu and I select License Admin AERMOD MPI. And here in this license administration window, is where you will come to activate your secondary AERMOD MPI web license. So you would click Activate Web License. You would enter in your serial number, whatever that happens to be, and then the activation key for the secondary license that was provided to you. This is included in the email that you receive when you purchase AERMOD View. Once it's activated, it will give you a message saying it's been successfully activated. You can close that window out, and then we return to Batcher, at which point we can select our MPI executables from our drop-down list. So I have AERMOD MPI Lakes. Here's my processes drop-down menu so I can choose how many I want to utilize. And when I click Run, it's ready to go. Now for these runs, because I'm using my 4 processors, just to give you an idea, the original runs without the MPI executable here, this exact list, tutorial.abi, case_terrain.abi, and oilco.abi, on their own took almost 2 minutes, almost 1 minute, and then a little over a minute for those 3 runs. So with AERMOD MPI, I'm going to see that reduced roughly by a factor of 4. Another nice thing about Batcher is how you can set it to run on, say, a desktop in your office, and you can let it run overnight because these runs will simply progress in the sequence that you set. So you can start your runs whenever you leave the office for the day, go home, eat dinner, go to sleep, have a nice relaxing evening at home, come back the next morning and find that the run sequence has progressed while you were asleep at night, doing your work for you. So that's just another way that you can recapture some time in your life. We'll come back and revisit this at the end of the presentation. So we've run AERMOD MPI through AERMOD View. We've also utilized Batcher to run AERMOD MPI on a second computer, gaining even more time. One additional way that you can gain time is to use a model run service that Lakes Environmental has for you. Our Lakes computing services use additional processing power beyond the 8 processors that you already have access to via our in-house supercomputers in our server farm, as well as using clustered computers on the cloud. Through these processes, we can take advantage of an increased number of processors to dramatically reduce your model runtimes. This also does not require AERMOD View to use. The service can be used for any AERMOD project, whether you developed it by yourself through a text file or used another interface to prepare the model. Note that if you do have AERMOD View, then those customers will benefit from our interface utilities and features when you then post-process the data files that are output by the model run service. Just to give a quick comparison, say you take the single CPU AERMOD.exe case, and you try to run a project, and that project is going to take 1 month of time, 720 hours of time, 30 days to finish. Well, if you use your 8 processor AERMOD MPI, you'll see roughly a factor of 8 reduction. So now you're down to a little over 3 days, 3.5 days, just using the AERMOD MPI. Well, you can reduce that even further using our in-house supercomputers, or if we take it all the way up to the cluster, you can have that thing done in an hour and have some results back in your hands. If you're interested in using our model run service, we can prepare a quotation for you. Simply send your project files to support@weblakes.com. Please include the AERMOD input file, the meteorological data, the SFC and PFL files, and any externally referenced files found in the input. So for example, your receptors may be located in a receptor file. If you use AERMOD View, it has a .rou extension. if you're using hourly emission files or ozone hourly background data files or just background concentration files. Anything that you might have as an externally referenced file will also need to be included. If you send us the files and we do find something is missing, we'll quickly shoot you an email right back and say, hey, we need this file too so we can get our quote run. Once we have all the files in place, we do a fast test run just to get an idea of how long this is going to take, and so that we can send you a cost-assured quote off immediately. The quote is run. You tell us, go ahead, please run my model for me. We execute the model on our cluster. And once the model is complete, our sales team then sends you a link to make payment, and the results are sent via our secure FTP site. Once you have the results, you can plug those right back into your project folder, and AERMOD View is going to read them right out of hand. So we have all these ways that you can regain time on your project just by running AERMOD MPI on your standard AERMOD View license. You can go to your secondary batcher license to regain time there. So you're using 2 computers simultaneously. And then you have our model run service that you can utilize. And so there we are. We're coming up on the end of our 30 minutes here. Here's our contact information. If you want to get one of those quote requests, ooh, that's a tongue twister, send us your files and we can get that for you done as quickly as possible. If you have any other questions, of course, we always welcome emails at support@weblakes.com, sales@weblakes.com if you have questions about purchasing or renewing maintenance. I can also take some questions now. There is a questions panel where you can type in any questions that you have, and I can address those now just here over our call. One question that came in asked about the MPI compiler. Do you have to install any MPI compiler or communication protocol or package? There is an additional installation that is run at the time of installing AERMOD View. When you go to the software updates webpage to install AERMOD View as per the installation instructions, you'll see a link to download the AERMOD View installation file, and right below that is an installation for the MPitch2 compiler libraries. It's just a simple installation that you can run concurrently. Doesn't take any time at all to install that. And once MPI is installed, once MPitch is installed, the AERMOD MPI executables are available for selection. Somebody asked to see one more time where the AERMOD executables are for selecting MPI. Come to the File menu and go to Preferences, about halfway down the list. In the Preferences menu, you will see EPA Models Limits, and under that you'll see AERMOD. So when you come to EPA Models Limits AERMOD, there is the drop-down executable to select which version of AERMOD you want to use. Default is AERMOD.exe. That represents the current available version of AERMOD from the EPA, and then the MPI versions are noted as such. Can Batcher be run at the same time on 2 different computers? Yes, it can. Now note that your AERMOD View license is good on one computer, and your secondary license for AERMOD MPI is good on a second computer. So if you do plan to use Batcher on a third computer, still, you would only be able to use the regular serial version of AERMOD on that third computer. But yes, you can continue to use Batcher on additional computers as well. AERMOD MPI does work with the multi-chemical run utility for those of you that are familiar with multichem. If I come to the Run menu and show multichem here, the multi-chemical utility allows you to specify chemical-specific emission rates for individual sources. So I have a stack 1 and a stack 2 here that are going to run different chemicals. When you go through the process of running multichem, you're using Batcher. Whoops. Here, it's just going to prepare some new plot files for me because I forgot I had run already. But when you go to the run process part of multichem, it goes to Batcher. So you're just going to run Batcher exactly like I just said, and you'll be able to select AERMOD MPI from that executable drop-down list. A question about comparing AERMOD MPI to ADMS. I have not personally worked with ADMS, so I can't say exactly if the runs how different the runtimes will be since they are fairly different models. I would expect that if they're both running on the same number of processors, you could potentially see for the same project similar runtimes. But again, I haven't specifically run the ADMS model, so I don't know exactly what they're doing internally with that. AERMOD MPI, can it work with more than 8 cores? Natively, the version that you get with AERMOD View will only work on up to 8 cores. So if you have a 16-core processor or a 32-core computer, you'll still only be able to use 8 of those processors natively. If you find yourself with a project that's going to take a month or more to run, like the example we gave, then that would be a good idea where you can jump in and use our model run service, either using our in-house computers or using a cloud cluster system, which can take advantage of almost an unlimited number of cores. One question here asking about future changes to AERMOD View that may be planned. Of course, we are always in a development cycle. We're always looking for ways to improve our products and make them work well for you. Something that we anticipate becoming available in the future is going to be the ability to submit runs automatically from our software to our supercomputer cluster. So you'll have your run built in AERMOD View, and instead of just running on your local computer, you'll be able to estimate the runtime, get a quote up front, and then click a submit button. And as long as you have an internet connection, your files can be transferred to our supercomputer cluster, and then we can run those things for you and submit the results right back to you once payment is guaranteed. So that's something we're developing now and hope to bring you in the near future. There is also the expectation that the US EPA will be releasing a new version of AERMOD sooner than later. We don't know the exact time because they don't know the exact time, but all indications are that the AERMOD, a new version of the AERMOD model, should be released sometime at the beginning of this year. That could be Q1, that could be Q2, we don't know. But when the EPA announces that a new version of AERMOD is available, we immediately jump into development mode. We begin scouring the code to figure out what changed, what new model options may be present, and concurrently we start working on a brand new AERMOD MPI. So depending on how extensive those changes are when a new version is released, it may take us a couple weeks to get everything done, but be assured that once a new version is released, we know about it at the same time that you do, and so we'll immediately begin working on updates to the model and get those out to you as quickly as possible. And one question that came in about multichem, there are options for multiple high values when you run multichem. I'll show that quickly up here on the screen. You can select output options. There's a separate tab here where you can choose from different averaging periods. You can do exceedance thresholds, block or rolling averages, and then you can select between the first and 10th high values. So whatever options you select here for the output are going to be applied to all of the chemicals. So you may get some additional plot files, but it does allow you some additional output to go with the chemical specific, source specific model runs. The really nice thing about multichem, of course, is that you only have to run the model once for each source. As long as you're not making changes to the source parameters and you're only changing the emission rates, I can come in here and double these emission rates to something different for stack 1 and maybe have my emission rates for stack 2, and rather than have to rerun the model from scratch, because I've already run it once, it's going to take the existing model run and update my contours for me in just a matter of seconds. So not only are you getting the benefit of running the model using AERMOD MPI to reduce the model runtimes, when you use Multichem, you can come in here and just update your contours. I'm done in 18 seconds using brand new emission rates for these two stacks, and I get brand new results. So we're all about saving you time here at Lakes. Okay. Well, I want to thank you all again for being here for our webinar. Again, if you would like a Craig quote request or you have any other questions about AERMOD MPI or anything that we do here at Lakes, send us an email at support@weblakes.com or sales@weblakes.com, and we would love to hear from you. Thank you all again for being here, and I hope you have a wonderful day.